distinguished members of the Heritage Foundation, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. I extend my sincere gratitude to Kevin Roberts for the invitation to address this highly respected forum, one that is so important for the future of our shared values. I also wish to express my loving thanks to my son Leonardo for standing here by my side and in every step for the fight for Mexico. First of all, please accept my condolences for the great loss of Charlie Kirk. May he rest in peace and our Lord's perpetual light shine upon him. His work, I am sure, will continue to inspire people to look up for Jesus Christ. I stand before you deeply concerned about the trajectory of my country, Mexico, a nation of good people, a nation I love, and I have dedicated all my life to serving. First, as a television investigative journalist and anchorwoman who survived an assassination attempt for denouncing organized crime, cartels, and governmental corruption. And recently, just 7 years ago, as a senator, now attending my second term as conservative opposition. Today, Mexico is in danger, following step by step the Venezuelan path. The radical left regime threatens to undermine the very foundations of the partnership between our countries and jeopardize the stability of our shared region. For the last 3 decades, we believed Mexico was finally ready for genuine progress. As a democratic nation, we pursued market-based reforms and opened our economy to foreign investment. We were striving to build a republic where no one held absolute power. NAFTA was the culmination of these efforts. It was more than a trade deal, it was a symbol of a shared vision for an integrated and prosperous North America. But the dream of Mexico as a responsible partner in the free world began to fade under the radical left government of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who began dismantling, undermining the rule of law and forging ties with cartels. He began dismantling democracy. Now we have a crisis that is not merely domestic, but a direct threat to the security of the entire hemisphere. The Latin American left gains power. Authoritarianism, statism, and collusion with cartels are unfolding with an alarming clarity in Mexico. The gradual but relentless erosion of liberty and the rule of law are transforming Mexico from a republic to a one-party regime that ruthlessly silences dissent, destroys institutions and fundamental rights, and concentrates power in corrupt politicians who have jeopardized the justice system, turning it into a tool of political repression that targets not only political rivals, but journalists, activists, priests, and anyone who dares to speak truth to power or expose their ties to criminal organizations. This is not a matter of isolated incidents. President Claudia Sheinbaum leads an active and deliberate destruction of democratic institutions. She displaced, with an illegitimate majority of Congress, the most experienced and independent judges from the top of the Supreme Court to the lower courts, replacing them with loyalists and cronies appointed through fraudulent elections with appallingly low voter turnout. The result is a judiciary that is no longer impartial, objective, and committed to upholding the rule of law, but somewhat beholden to the ruling party, a puppet court to serve the president as an autocrat, not to serve the people. The new judiciary got into power violating the Constitution, just like it happened in Venezuela, just like it. It is not an exaggeration to say that Mexico no longer possesses a genuinely independent judiciary. The situation may worsen in the months ahead. The president will pursue further reforms, including a deeply concerning electoral overhaul to increase government interference and make it far easier to commit fraud, ensuring her party's perpetual and ending fair and competitive elections. Morena Party is full woke ideology. It's illegal in Mexico to say that a man is a man even under woman's clothes and makeup. If you say so, you get fined and kicked out of politics. Children are indoctrinated in the woke ideology, forcing them to study with the books published by the government. They have to learn about the left ideology as the best political and economical system. It is also prohibited to mention God in schools, in classrooms. You cannot mention the word God. This insidious rise of authoritarianism is linked to another troubling trend: the relentless and often reckless expansion of the state into all spheres of economical and social life. The government supports central planning, has a deep suspicion of free markets, and undermines private enterprise. Statism is at the core of the regime. The government has restricted private investment in key sectors such as energy, effectively taking industries under the state's control with its corrupt and inept bureaucrats. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of this statism is the growing role of the military in Mexico's economy. Rather than focusing on the urgent task of defending our nation from cartels, the military manage ports, airports, custom facilities, and other sectors like construction, transportation, and a wide array of commercial activities. And this brings me to the third and most alarming aspect of the new Morena regime: the alliance between the government and the cartels. A systematic and deliberate strategy to consolidate power through violence, intimidation, and the manipulation of the rule of law. Listen to this. Each day in Mexico, 10 women are assassinated. Each day in Mexico. This has been for years now. Mexican mothers mourn. Mexican mothers, we all live in fear throughout our country. And let me be crystal clear. The cartels are embedded in the political system, exercising enormous influence over elections, laws, and territory. Just 2 weeks ago, a major scandal was exposed involving 2 higher-ranked members of the Mexican Navy, nephews of the Navy Secretary. They were leading an international fuel smuggling and theft crime organization in collusion with a designated terrorist cartel. Moreover, the cartels actively participate in the elections. They have financed campaigns from the leftist ruling party, they have kidnapped opposition members, and in the 2024 election, 40 candidates were assassinated. 40 candidates. At least 4 governors are now facing credible accusations of collaborating with the cartels, and even the leader of Morena in the Senate is linked with a cartel. He sits just a few meters from me. In fact, López Obrador, presidential office chief, had a bank laundering money for a cartel to buy chemicals in China to produce fentanyl in Mexico, and Sheinbaum will not proceed against him. The lines between government and organized crime have blurred, and cartels operate with impunity and terror. In this increasingly blear landscape, there was one moment of clarity, a game changer that at least partially shifted the dynamics: the new policy from President Donald Trump toward Latin America. President Trump, unlike many others in Washington Biden's administration, recognized the gravity of the situation in Mexico and understood the dangers posed by the cartels, not only as the main culprits behind flooding the United States with fentanyl, but also as a destabilizing force threatening the security of the entire hemisphere. He took a bold and decisive step, designating the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. I have tried 3 times to pass a bill at the Senate to designate cartels as terrorists, 3 times from years ago. But López Obrador and Claudia Sheinbaum ordered the Morena senators to vote against it. Why? Because they are narco-politicians. Trump's decision sent a clear message to the Mexican establishment, exposing the complicity of members of the Mexican government and forcing the new administration to take at least some steps to combat cartels. This pressure from the United States had some results: the extradition of dozens of drug lords to the United States, and finally accepting the United States intelligence capabilities in Mexico to go after these organizations. It seems to be a great result, but far from it. These are just baby steps in such an enormous criminal context that's known as a narco state. I firmly believe that millions of Mexicans welcome and value the United States support in the fight against these narco-terrorists. Without this assistance, we would remain at the mercy of a Mexican government that already had turned its back on its own people. However, allow me to be somewhat skeptical. I do not think these measures will be enough to fundamentally halt Mexico's downward drift. The underlying problems, authoritarianism, statism, corruption, and collusion with cartels, remain deeply entrenched in Claudia Sheinbaum's regime. She is just the continuity of López Obrador. The López Obrador era is not finished yet. Claudia Sheinbaum is his puppet, and even more, she is happy to do as he says. The Mexican regime, despite making some concessions to the Trump administration, views these measures merely as temporary obstacles to its long-term goals, establishing an anti-democratic, anti-capitalist, radical left and pro-criminal regime right next door to the United States. This is why it's so crucial that in the incoming US-MCA negotiations, democracy and rule of law are incorporated as non-negotiable commitment from Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum must understand that being part of North America's economic community comes with the responsibility to permanently ensure hemispheric security, actively defend democracy, and promote a competitive capitalist system. We conservatives on both sides of the border must work together to ensure that our shared values are protected. The battle of the right in Mexico is as crucial as the one taking place in Europe and the United States. But the Mexican left is far more serious and dangerous. It holds real and great power. And politicians have an alliance with cartels. Just look at one state, just one state. There are many like this. Let's take Sinaloa, for example. The whole state is run by narcos. And López Obrador and Claudia Sheinbaum were really angry when the United States got its major drug lord, and they even said that the violence was provoked by the United States for capturing this drug lord. In reality, it's the other way around. The violence is provoked by the government of Morena, who don't capture the criminals and don't capture the big narco leaders and the narco politicians who protect them. Yet there is hope for Mexico. There is a resurgence of the right, not among the political elite who have historically proven cowardly and prefer to navigate the politically ambiguous center. The resurgence of the right is taking place among the new generations, in the generation of my son, in those young Catholics who are sick of professing their faith in silence, in the men who are tired of being humiliated by radical feminism, in the families who are concerned by the indoctrination of their children, in the entrepreneurs who perceive the attack against meritocracy as an existential threat, in the victims of the cartels who desperately cry out for order. We Mexicans are, at our core, people of family values, Christian faith, and of a meritocratic spirit. It is for these reasons that voices such as the ones from J.D. Vance, President Meloni, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, Javier Milei, and Bukele are beginning to create fissures within the dominant discourse of the left in my country. Yes, the Mexican right is listening and it's beginning to articulate itself. We have to stop Mexico from becoming the next Venezuela. Right now, Mexico is not a republic anymore. Just watch the destruction of the institutions, the absence of the rule of law, the statism. Just observe the help and the admiration that Morena promotes for Cuba and Venezuela. Under Morena, Mexico has become one of the most violent and corrupt countries in the world. I hope our countries can work together against crime at a major scale. I ask the United States government to let us know the names of the narco-politicians. Our people should know at least who are identified by the United States authorities so we can organize social pressure over them. I can assure you there are many of us who are fighting for freedom, life, justice, for Republican institutions, for the rule of law. We are fighting for peace. We are in front of the radical left monster and their allies, the cartels. But under God's guidance, we won't step back. We are fighting for Mexico. Let this be known to our good American neighbors. May God bless our countries. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Is that some very good?